Well, this is fun. If you remember, about a year ago, I went ahead and changed my wheel bearings on my Subaru Forester. We went with some OEM replacements up front and then some knuckles, some pre-built knuckles in the rear. And well, I'm sitting here on the side of the damn road. The rear left one, I already warrantied the rear right one. The rear left one just decided it was going to pretty much explode. It was fine this morning when I left about 40 kilometers ago, and now when I'm driving, it is literally sounding horrible. So I'll see if I can give you a little bit of a taste. Listen to that. It's like grinding, and actually I lifted it up and it's vibrating so much. Yeah, listen to that. That's my bearing. So this is a little bit of a different video. We're going to be going through the experience of getting the Forester home. Thankfully, we're in Calgary and we're not that far away, so we'll just get it towed. But if it was otherwise, then I would have to figure out a different solution. So welcome to the life of old Subarus and really, really bad replacement parts. This has got like 30,000 kilometers on the parts. It's actually almost too hot to touch the inner under the wheel. So it's been cooking. Actually, the wheel is hot. So this whole thing is absolutely fried to the point where it's actually wrecking the disc rotor because it's got that much camber. You can actually see in here where it's grinding inside the knuckle and the grease has flown out of the CV. So this is literally maybe 10, 20 kilometers with it failed when it started making noise. This is absolutely crazy. So now we pretty much wait for the tow because I don't even feel like if I drove another 5 kilometers that way, it would be still working. It's like wobbling whenever I hit the brakes or accelerate. You can feel it wobble. And yeah, you can't drive it like that. That is the quickest bearing I've ever seen fail. As you guys know, I drove my front bearings failing in the summer before I replaced them. And they were squealing a little bit, but they didn't explode. And well, now that the Forester is home and back in the garage, it's time to inspect the damage. What I'm going to do is obviously going to pull the wheel off. I'm going to go ahead and start pulling off the knuckle. If you guys want to see that process of replacing the bearings and what I did the first time here, go check out that original video where I replaced it with the knuckle. I will be talking a little bit more about once I see what happened. Exactly why I believe or don't believe that these knuckles were very good or these bearings were very good. But that is to be decided when I pull this guy off. So let's go ahead, jump into it. It shouldn't take me more than probably half an hour. It's a pretty easy task now that I've done it quite a few times. Again, it's just the parking brake that's the biggest pain. We don't even have to deal with reinstalling that today because, well, we got to get a new bearing in this. So let's go ahead and tackle removing this knuckle. And here's a better look at the wobble. That is absolutely absurd. This isn't even as bad as my bearings that had over 400,000 kilometers in it. This is obviously something wrong with it, but we will see what happens when we pull it apart. And well, with the brakes off, I'm already noticing some interesting things. So the pad looked like it was kind of wearing through or like you had a rock stuck in it. It was not that. That's actually why I originally thought it was a rock, but upon checking the temperature, it was not just a rock. So it's like grinded on both sides here. I'll flip this one over. And you see like it's ground back there too, which is kind of strange for when a bearing goes out. But you're going to start to notice things. Look there's grease inside my drum. That's kind of strange. But then we go here
And we see another reason, or another reason why that is happening. It's gonna be very hard for you guys to see here. I'll try to zoom in as much as I can, but it's actually grinding on the brake pad kind of mounting springs. I don't know what's the official name for these, but these little holders, it was actually grinding on there. And to make it even worse, it's gonna be hard for you, really hard for you to see. It's on one of these sides, I think right in there. It'd be almost impossible for you to see. It was actually grinding on the metal itself. That is telling me that the bearing was so gone that it was tilted enough to actually grind up on the drum or the disc and the caliper mount, which is absolutely absurd. I've never seen a bearing fail that quickly. And we haven't even got it off, and I can already see grease on this tone ring right here. So it's not looking good for this bearing. And I am going to tell you all about it once we get it off and do a final inspection. And well, as you can see, this bearing is no more. I think these are the seals. Yep, this is a seal. This is what was left of the knuckle right there. And there's the rollers from the bearing. You can actually see on some of these that they are ground flat. So anyone want to explain what happened? Because this boggles me. And then here's the hub that just, well, popped right out of the knuckle for obvious reasons, because, well, all the rollers are gone. You can see that it was rubbing in here, which I'm assuming would be rubbing in the knuckle itself. Yeah, rubbing right here. Oh, there's, look at, another roller just smushed flat. So that's what's left of my bearing I did literally last summer. And well, with the knuckle out, we can go talk about what's the next steps. Well, obviously, I don't trust these knuckles. As I said, I had one warranted on the other side literally 2 months ago because it was making noise. And now this one decided to just explode one day. So that's a 2 out of 2 failure rate, and it's obviously something I'm not comfortable with moving forward. So the plan is actually to go ahead and use my OEM knuckles that I took off originally, and we're going to go put in some new bearings. We're going to use Timken bearings or Timken bearings. I've heard really good things about them. They are an OEM supplier, so they should be relatively good. And the only reason I didn't go with OEM is they're pretty much double the price, and these ones already in Canada are $50. So we're going to see how they do. They're obviously a lot better than these ones, which are about 25 bucks a bearing. And well, usually I don't like to call companies out. I think 2 out of 2 failures is enough to warrant me kind of talking about this. So these are SKP loaded knuckles for the rear 2004 Forester. And honestly, I'm not going to go over their stuff probably ever again. A failure like this, where you have essentially the roller bearings like smushing flat and burning up, there's obviously something that's went wrong. As you guys know, look at my video. I changed these just a year ago. Even if it's a rally car and you're driving it every day, a year for bearings to fail without warning, the big thing is without warning, is kind of a big deal. So with that being said, as I said, I'm not going to be using SKP stuff anymore. It's just to see this sort of failure is got me avoiding them at all costs. Because imagine if this happened in the middle of nowhere or something else went wrong. And I have reached out to the company for comments with these photos, and I haven't got anything back from me yet. If you do see a comment with maybe an updated video, I will have that. But honestly, I don't think they'll probably have a comment because it makes it really hard just for them to even get in contact. I did warranty the last one through Rock Auto, but because it's 12 months, that's a manufacturer's warranty. It failed out of it. It's out of pocket, which, as I said, this is completely unacceptable. If it was making some noise and then I could tell it was heating up, that would obviously be a little better, because then you can drive it. Like, I drove my front ones when they were wearing down and starting to make noise, almost 1,000 kilometers on worn ones. These ones, I couldn't even drive 40 kilometers before they, well, pretty much blew right up. So obviously, that's going to leave me a little skeptical of their quality of products.
But let me know down below if you use SKP stuff before and if you've had this issue. Maybe this is a first time and maybe this is a one-off. As I said, I still can't trust it after this kind of failure, but maybe a lot of you guys have had good luck. Now, obviously, we're going to put the new bearings in and see how they work. But if you see no video in the next year of talking about my bearings, the new ones probably did a little better. And there we go. We have our OEM knuckle that I had originally pulled off of this car and a new bearing crest in. So this time, as I said, I decided to go with the Tunkin bearings. They're made in Japan. They have really good reviews on the forums. So I decided to try it out and see if they do any better than our previous knuckle. So, or our previous bearing. So that's what we're going to be doing. But we can't go ahead and toss this in the car yet because we have a couple things we got to fix first. So there's two major concerns. Our first concern is, well, we have kind of that rough edge on our CV shaft. That I have an idea for. And then the other one is I don't know if there's any grease left in the CV shaft. So we're going to open it up and shove a bunch of grease in there and then shut it back. So that is the plan. So let's get to it before we go ahead and put all of this back together. And like I said, the CV shaft here isn't exactly what I'd want to put back together. So we're going to have to do a few things. As you can see here, it is quite rough. You can actually hear it when I go rub against it. So the issue there is this is where the seals sit and it's going to rub on the seal. So the best solution I've kind of thought of is we're going to go ahead and just going to take some sandpaper and sand it down just a little bit so that we're hopefully going to prevent it from destroying the seals. But I guess if it does destroy the seals, the seals aren't too expensive. So I'm going to grab some sandpaper and start sanding this down.
And then I'll probably have to finish with a polish, or like a, I don't know, 1,000 grit.
And well, would you look at that? The CV still has pretty much all its grease. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and close it back up. This is going to alleviate a lot of concerns of the CV blowing up, because obviously if this grease isn't here, you're going to have a CV blowing up. So we're going to go ahead and close this back up. And then we're going to, it's dripping grease. We're going to seal this back up, and then we can go ahead and start to put together all of this mess. Now that we know that the CV axle does have grease and we smoothed out the CV shaft here, we can go ahead and start putting in our new knuckle, or our OEM knuckle with new bearings. So one thing we want to be careful of is just making sure that everything's lining up, and then we get to have the fun game of putting, where are they? All this stuff back together. If you've dealt with this or you watched my previous video, you know the handbrake on these are an absolute pain. So we're going to be putting the handbrake together and getting this all buttoned up and ready to go. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to put a little bit of grease on the shaft here, and then I'm going to move this up. What I like to do is I like to go ahead and move it to the shock and go ahead and just put one of the bolts on top here on the knuckle. And that will allow us to go ahead and kind of put everything together. And there we go. After fighting the parking brake as per usual, we got the knuckle back on the car. Just a little bit of update for you guys. I did email SKP and I called them and they've ignored me completely. So as I said at the intro, or when we were taking the knuckle off, don't really trust them. And after all this, they're not a brand I'll be using anymore, because that failure 40 kilometers after I started hearing noise is absolutely crazy, because that doesn't give you enough time to go somewhere where you can like get a tow if something else happens if you're in the backcountry. So won't be using SKP stuff anymore. As I said, we put on the OEM knuckle with Timken bearings. Hopefully they're a little bit better. As I said, they have really good reviews, and we were able to put a seal or new seals in the back. The only issue is one of these seals I got from them could look completely different to the OEM one. So I actually went ahead and popped off one of the OEM ones I have laying around and put it on. It doesn't have the chamfer that you're supposed to for the seal. So I'm going to be emailing Rock Auto about that too, because they completely ignored me about the knuckles. So maybe with a second case on them, they'll go ahead and answer me. But there you go. I hope you enjoyed this little bit of an unexpected journey into replacing the knuckle. I'm looking here, my wheel's a little bit out of line too, so this Forester needs a bit of work. So hopefully you guys stay subscribed and see all the new ideas I have coming and all the new adventures. And I'll be seeing you guys in the next adventure.